Good afternoon and welcome to the Captain's Log. Today is the 14th of August. It's 5:30 in the evening and I'm just coming off my home time. Today's video we're going to keep kind of short. I just want to go over some principles and some steps you can take to make yourself safer and the people on the road with you safer as we do our jobs and go about the business of driving heavy vehicles. When I was in the military, I used to teach a version of what I'm going to talk about today to the new incoming drivers. And of course, I didn't know what it was back then, but the principles are pretty universal. So we're going to talk today about what's called the Smith system. Smith system is a series of 5 steps that you can take to make yourself safer on the road. Each one is kind of a different step, but when you combine all 5 of them together, it will reduce accidents on the highways by a huge factor. I don't know the statistics on the factors, but I'll just basically say if every driver were to follow these steps, I would say that we could cut traffic accidents on the highways down 75% or better. It's that good and it's that important. So we'll quickly go through them. There's 5. We'll talk about what each one has a name, and then we'll kind of talk about what that name means. So the first one is aim high in steering, and what that basically means is to see as far down the highway as you can. So according to Smith's website, aim high in steering, staying alert to the dangers and traffic ahead not only avoids rear-end collisions, but also alert other drivers behind your vehicle to slow down. The driver should steer and focus their attention high so as to view the road as whole and not just a few feet ahead. Basically what that means is when you're driving in city traffic, obviously your long distance visibility is going to be affected. So you want to obviously keep in mind the vehicles that are in front of you, but also be looking, as far down, like you're driving down a city street, that you can, because hazards come from all directions. You got cars parked on the side of the road, you got cars in different lanes alongside of you that you can't see because of the truck's blind spots, traffic lights, stop signs, other warnings. And so if you're looking down the road and you see the vehicle, let's say 2,000 feet ahead of you, put on their brakes, well, it's only a matter of time before you're going to have to put yours on. Otherwise you're going to drive right into the back of them. So if you're watching not just the vehicle in front of you directly in front, but as far down as you can, it's going to give you that early warning. And another thing to think about is traffic lights. Now obviously here we have your green lights, your yellow lights, and your red lights, and there's a term called the stale green light, and what that basically means is a light that's been green for a while. It could change at any time. So if you see it down the road that the light's green and it's been green for the last minute or so, it's only a matter of time before it changes. So you should probably take steps to slow down. That way when it does turn, then you can stop safely in time. But you also need to have a point in your mind that when you're driving down the highway, and let's say in city traffic, at what point will you keep going? Because if you were to stop, it's going to cause an undue hazard to the vehicles behind you, obviously, and you may not be able to stop in time. So keep that fixed point in mind. Let's say it's a tree on the side of the road, and you say to yourself, if the light changes before I get to that tree, I'll stop. If the light does not change, then I'll keep going. So that's basically your aim high in steering. Okay, point number 2 is get the big picture. And that basically means be scanning everything. Get as much information that you can. And according to their site, be aware of your surroundings at all times. It may seem obvious to say, but distracted drivers are just as dangerous as intoxicated ones. Erratic and angry drivers take up a large portion of the traffic we see daily. So avoid major accidents by noticing how other drivers behave on the road. Having the whole picture means that you are doing your part to keep the vehicle as safe as possible while moving 1,000 feet a second. I'm not sure about that number, that's just what it happened to say on this piece of paper here. There are a variety of hazards between your own vehicle and other drivers, and keep a keen awareness of these dangers will reduce risk. 1,000 feet a second, that's very fast. If a mile is 5,000, a little more than 5,000 feet, that means every 5 seconds you're going a mile. I don't, unless you're in the Concorde, that number might be a bit high. Maybe closer to 100 feet a second. And put an extra zero on there. I downloaded this directly from the Smith System website. So, it's probably just a typo. So, 1,000 feet a second. Alright. Okay, so basically, get the big picture. You don't not only need to be looking ahead of you, but you need to be looking to the sides of your vehicle and to the rear. Obviously, you can't see directly behind you in these tractor trailers, but you can see vehicles pulling up behind you. Once they get behind you, you can't see them because they're in your blind spots. But keeping an eye out, you'll know when the vehicle's in there. And anytime you cross into an intersection, you should be looking in your mirrors to check for vehicles behind you. Also, whenever you cross into an intersection, you should take your foot off the accelerator and hover, not press, hover over the brake pedal, just in case you have to stop in a heartbeat. Someone runs a red light, stop sign, whatever. Also, if you notice how people are driving, you see the guy coming behind you at a high rate of speed, darting in and out of traffic, you know it's only a matter of time before he catches up to you, and he's going to become a hazard for you. And as he gets past you, then he's going to be obviously a hazard for other drivers. So get as much information as you can. Some trucks now have collision mitigation systems on them, which alert you to traffic in front of you, but it does nothing about the traffic to the sides and to the rear. So you need to be looking in your mirrors. Your mirrors are important. Every 5 to 8 seconds you should be checking your mirrors. And there's basically 4 mirrors on the truck that you should be checking. There's the 2 flat mirrors, one on each side, and then there's 2, they call them spot mirrors, and the spot mirrors help you see the blind spots. So not only do you check your spot or your flat mirrors, you need to be checking your spot mirrors. Some trucks have hood mirrors on both sides of the trucks, some don't have it, and some only have one. So it's another way to check your blind spots right behind, because you can't see through the door and through the firewall. So if someone's right there by your front tire, that hood mirror will help you see them. So that's another thing about getting the big picture. Get as much information as you can. I know it might seem a bit daunting to always be checking your mirrors, but if you don't, you know, you might have an issue. And there's not the next one, but the one after that kind of goes back and mentions this same thing that we're referencing now. So let's just quickly move to the next one. The next one is keep your eyes moving. Basically means looking everywhere, all around. Okay, so it says the third standard of the Smith System asks drivers to remain alert. Energy drinks can only do so much before they cause the body to crash, and any repetitive motion sends us into a trance. Consistent eye movements prevent your body from entering a trance state, keeping you alert to every driving condition ahead of you. Now that's important because there's a term called highway hypnosis, and what that basically means is you kind of neglect your mirrors, you neglect to look around, you're just staring straight ahead. And what happens is as the lines are going by, you got that white fog line on the side, or the dash line to your left, or the center median line, or the yellow fog line. Whatever lines just become a blur. And if you notice that you're driving and you can't remember the last, let's say, 10 minutes of your drive, that's a pretty good indicator that you've been suffering from highway hypnosis. So keeping your eyes moving keeps you alert. Obviously, drinking caffeinated beverages, sugary foods, will give you that little energy boost for a short amount of time, but it's only a matter of time before your body can't function anymore, and it's gonna want to fall asleep. And when you start getting sleepy, you need to pull off the road and you need to park your truck. Don't be driving fatigued out there, because you're not going to do any good for anybody, let alone yourself. If you fall asleep behind the wheel, you could kill somebody, kill yourself, be seriously injure somebody else, drive out the side of the road, flip the truck over. So keep alert, keep your eyes moving. And it's a good way to think of it is start from your left, work your way around to the right, work back around, down at your dashboard, look at your speedometer and your whatnot, make sure you're not exceeding any of your temperatures and pressures and whatnot. So just kind of look left to right and go back. Keep your eyes moving. When you do take your CDL test, you need to make a point to make sure that the examiner sees you doing this, and by doing that, you need to be that way he sees or she sees that you're using your mirrors. Your mirrors are important. They're not just there for looks and to attach your CB antennas. Your mirrors are there for a reason. So keep your eyes moving. The next one is to leave yourself an out. Now, I mentioned before, by checking your mirrors, you know what's around you and behind you and in front of you. And a lot of times, the only thing you can't control is what's in front of you. So let's go through what they say, and then I'll add my 2 cents. So leave yourself an out. The fourth principle of the Smith system states to leave yourself a way out, an escape route. This means to ensure that other drivers do not box you in while selecting their lanes. Do not follow other vehicles too closely, and always anticipate what choices other drivers make. Okay, so you want to leave yourself an out. And what does that mean? That means if something were to happen, you've got a place to go. To the right lane, to the shoulder, to the left lane, to the left shoulder, an escape route. If someone slams on the brakes right in front of you, you need to know which way is safe and to avoid that incident. And a lot of times you can't control who pulls alongside of you. You can't control who pulls behind you. The only thing you can control is the distance between your vehicle and the vehicle in front of you. And a good rule of thumb on highway speeds is 5 to 7 seconds of following distance. And the way you determine your following distance is when you're driving down the highway, if there's a vehicle in front of you, when they pass a fixed object, let's say a street light or a sign or like a interstate overpass, just a fixed object, something that's not going to move. And when they cross that point, then you start counting to yourself 1,000, 2 1,000, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi if you prefer. And if you get to that point before you reach 5 seconds, you're too close. And if you're behind and you reach that point, let's say at 9 seconds, then what you have established is basically a 6 second, not 6, that's 5 seconds, 4 to 6 seconds worth of reaction distance and stopping distance. We talked a little bit on the air brake test about how long it takes to stop a vehicle, and you have your reaction, your accelerator, or I'm sorry, not your accelerator, your application, all those add up to your total stopping distance. And by controlling that space between you and the vehicle in front of you, that may be your only escape route. So keep that in mind. Leave yourself an escape route. Obviously, when you're in a construction zone and you've got cones and barricades on each side, you can't go anywhere, slow down. The posted speed limit for a lot of the construction zones around here, especially now because it's summertime, is either 55 or 60, and I tend to go at least 5 and sometimes even 10 miles below that in these construction zones, especially with these big large vehicles. And it doesn't take much to bounce off one of these, they call them Jersey barricades or concrete dividers or whatever. So the only thing you control is distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. And you may get people on the CB talking trash. Hey, why don't you speed up? Just turn off your CB and don't pay any attention to them. And I'll talk about that in the trucker slang for today. So that's my 2 cents. Keep a space between you and the vehicle in front of you. 5 to 7 seconds minimum following distance to highway speeds. Obviously, if you're in highway traffic, you're not, or in city traffic, you're not going to be able to maintain that. People are going to be darting in and out in front of you, and the only thing you can do if someone cuts in front of you is slow down. That's it. And the last step, or the last principle, is make sure they see you. And basically, that's establishing some kind of communications with the other drivers. So the worst thing a driver can do is to assume other drivers can see them, assume other drivers are not dangerous, or even assume that they will just get to their destination safely. The final rule for the Smith system is to make sure you are seen. This rule prevents accidents by removing assumptions made behind the wheel. As a driver, make sure that the other drivers can see you and to anticipate your move. If you feel you are coming into another driver's blind spot, use the horn to get their attention. Okay, so how do you make sure people see you? On the highway, one of the best things you can do, even in daytime, is to turn your lights on. You know, the trucks have clearance lights across the top. There's 5 amber ones going across the cab. There's your main headlights, your clearance lights, your turn signal lights, and then your trailer, you have 2 amber ones in the front, one on each side, 2 amber ones in the middle, and then 2 red ones in the back, and then going across the top of the trailer. Sometimes you have 5 and sometimes you have 3. Plus you have your regular tail lights. So in bright daylight, turn your headlights on. If it's daytime and it's raining, turn your headlights on. I always have my headlights on, regardless if I'm driving in bright sunlight or in dark of night. Be careful though with fog, because sometimes if you have your high beams on and you're driving at night and you have your high beams on, you won't see anything because the high beams just blend into the fog and it becomes just a blinding glare. So you have to use your low beams, obviously. So obviously when you're driving in those conditions, slow down. So that's your basic running lights. If you're going to change lanes, you need to use your turn signal. There's a reason why they have them on a vehicle. Use your dang turn signal. I can't stand people who don't use their turn signal and don't use it properly. Don't turn it on just before you make a lane change or turn. You know, give the drivers around you some warning before you change lanes, or when you're getting ready to make a turn. So use your dang turn signals. There's a reason why they're there, and if you don't use them, you're just not being very courteous or professional as a driver. Also, don't leave them blinking if you're not going to make another turn. If you change lanes and the thing keeps blinking, the drivers behind you don't know what you're going to do. So, you know, once you signal your intention to make a lane change, you make that lane change when it's safe. Turn off your turn signal. Just follow those steps. Also, when you're in a situation where you're dealing with a right-of-way situation, let's say you're at a 4-way stop, and there's a vehicle to your right and a vehicle to your left, and it's better, especially if they're cars, it's better just to let them go. Even if you were there first and you technically have the right of way, just stop at the stop sign, look at the driver to your right, make eye contact if possible. It's not always possible, but if you can, make eye contact with them, and then so you know what they're planning on doing. And then when they make their turn or they go through their intersection, you make sure the intersection is clear before you start through. It also works for pedestrians. Pedestrians in a crosswalk. It's not always the safest option to stop at a crosswalk when someone is ready to cross, because the drivers behind you might not be paying attention and come right in the back of you. So use caution with pedestrians in a crosswalk. They have the right of way, and a lot of times they'll just dart right out in front of you like they own the world. So if you come to a situation, let's say you're at a stoplight and there's a pedestrian waiting to cross, look at the pedestrian. I personally don't do the wave. Come on. I don't do that because it can be misinterpreted, and So I'll just make contact with them and I'll wait. If they don't do anything, I'll wait a little bit longer. If they finally don't do anything, then I'll proceed with caution. You know, I had a driver at the company I used to work for before I came to my own company who hit a bicyclist. And he was delivering to a place in the middle of a main urban center, and this bicyclist came up in the bike lane and tried to cross in front of the truck. The truck was right in all aspects, had the right of way, had his turn signal on, and this bicyclist just came right up and paid no attention. And when the truck turned, it hit the bicyclist. And I don't know the driver that this accident happened to, and I don't know who the pedestrian was. It made the local news, and as far as I'm aware, that the bicyclist survived, but it wasn't. It was a very serious accident. I think the bicyclist had some very serious injuries. So just be careful, especially when you're in these urban settings where you're dealing with bicycles, cars, pedestrians on the sidewalks. Always, especially if you're pulling, like say you're pulling in to deliver to like a strip mall or somewhere where there's going to be people walking around in a parking lot. Watch out for kids, because kids don't pay attention. They'll just run out right in front of you. So when you pull into a parking lot, let's say you're going to pull into let's just pick a random store. Let's say you're going to deliver to I don't know, what's a Walgreens. Let's say you're going to deliver to Walgreens, and you have some stuff for Walgreens, and let's say you're delivering soft drinks, and you're delivered to Walgreens, and at this particular store you deliver through the front door, so you're going to be driving into the parking lot. As soon as you hit that parking lot, turn your four-ways on. Make sure they see you. Pretty self-explanatory. And the last thing it says, use the horn. I don't recommend that, especially the air horn on trucks, because you can seriously startle somebody and cause them to do something really stupid. When you're driving down the highway, you see a lot of kids giving you the, blow the air horn stuff. I don't recommend you do that, because the parent driving that vehicle is not going to be expecting you to blow on the air horn. All of a sudden they hear this big loud noise, startle them, they jerk the steering wheel, and have an accident. So I understand it's fun, it gives the kids a smile, and makes them feel good, makes you feel good. Just be aware that when you do something like that, it could cause a problem by startling somebody, and that could be a very dangerous situation. So there you have it. That's the Smith system for defensive driving. Of all the defensive driving programs and trainings that I've gone through over the years, this is by far the best and most complete that I've seen, and I recommend that everyone go online, type in Smith System Defensive Driving. There's courses you can take that are formal. That I don't know if they'll do anything for your insurance or anything or not, but by doing that, at least it keeps that in mind. Understand them, apply them, and make everyone's life a lot safer. On that note, we'll end today's episode. On today's trucker slang, it's going to be CB Cowboy. What's a CB Cowboy? CB Cowboy is the guy that gets on the CB and talks a lot of trash. Whether he's talking trash about politics or other drivers, or someone's not driving fast enough for them, or whatever. They get on the CB and they talk trash, call you nasty names, foul language, challenge you. Yeah, why don't you pull off to the next rest area and we'll go at it, we'll fight, And those kind of people, just ignore them. When you start hearing that kind of garbage on the CB, just turn off the CB, because all it is people that are just have nothing else to do, and they're bored or they're angry, and they're going to take it out on you, whether you're at fault or not, or they're going to take it out on someone else, and you guys sit there and listen to it. So just turn off the CB, avoid CB cowboys, don't engage them, and it'll be a lot more pleasant for you and everybody else. I'll give you a quick story. This happened to me about 4 or 5 nights ago. I was driving to my delivery. It's not incredibly late. It's probably 11:30, midnight-ish, and it was raining. Not heavily, but raining, so the roads were a little slick, and there were some fog situations developing. Not dense fog, but patchy fog. And it wasn't consistent. It was kind of broken and patchy, and the speed limit was 55 and on this particular road. I was doing 55, and this driver got behind me and just bitching and moaning. I probably shouldn't say that. I should probably censor that. But just complaining about my driving. What are you afraid of the raindrops? Let's go. And there's no one else on the highway. It's a 2-lane country road. There was no one coming in either direction. It was just me and him. And all he had to do was just pass. And I was giving him space to pass. I was cheating over to the right side of the highway, close to the shoulder. And it's not a very widely paved road. It kind of, as soon as you hit the right fog line, maybe you got 2, maybe 3 inches, then it drops off to rough gravel and uneven small shoulder. So I was cheating over to that so he could see around me and could go around. And after about 2 minutes of him griping and complaining, and I didn't engage him, I just reached up and turned the CB off because I just didn't want to deal with it. And I don't know what his deal was. He was in a hurry or not. I don't really care. You can't let other people dictate how you drive. You have to be the ones in control of your vehicle. And if you got to be driving 10 miles below the posted speed limit because of road conditions, then do that. And the heck with anyone else. It's only going to be a situation that's just going to cause trouble. So that's your trucker slang of the day. CB Cowboy. On that note, we'll say goodbye. We'll see you on the next one, probably another week or so. And I think on the next episode, we will get away from the instruction and tips and tricks, and we'll do something different for the episode. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do a top 10 of favorite movies or whatever, just to give us something different to talk about. On that note, thanks for watching the Captain Song. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.